San Antonio in the spring, you can see these trees pretty much everywhere, all over the city. They're called Loquats, and when I was growing up, we called them Chinese plums. The scientific name is, I wrote it down, Areobatria japonica. A friend of mine who's a generation older than me, so my parents' generation, said that when she was little, her mom would tell her that they were called Japanese plums, and the name was changed during World War II. They're a tree that is native to China. They were cultivated in Japan, and from there they were introduced to various places around the world, Southern Europe, the Middle East, Northern Africa. Here in the U.S., they grow mostly where citrus trees grow, so in subtropical, kind of warmer regions like Texas, California, Florida, places like that. And we would eat them growing up. We kind of just like pick them and snack on them, but we never really like harvested them or really considered them, something to gather in bulk and do something with. But there's many things you can do with them. And so today we're going to be picking some, and we are inviting the community to send us your best loquat recipes. We'll try out maybe a chutney. My mom has made an upside down cake with them before. You can make preserves, but we'd love to know what you do with them. We're going to start by just picking some and freezing them, and then once we have some ideas from the community, we'll put something together with the loquats. The first thing you're going to want to do is get the clusters of fruit down off the tree. Don't pick them individually. Break the clusters off. If they're low-hanging, you can just do this easily enough with your hands or with hand clippers. If they're higher up, you're going to want to stand on a ladder, or if you have access to a pole clipper, that works really well as well. Once the clusters are down, then you're going to take the individual fruits off, and you just really easily twist them off with your hands. That's easy to do. The main thing to keep in mind is that this process, if you're going from picking to processing to cooking, that takes a long time. So set aside like a weekend or a whole day if you're going to go from beginning to end. This is about 3 to 4 pounds of loquats that we picked. There is 3 cups per pound, so it's about 9 to 12 cups total is what we got. And what you're going to do first is wash them, and then you're going to start processing them by just getting all of the stems off, the leaves off. And then this is the most important part when you're processing them, is getting the seeds out and the membrane. You don't got to get the skin off, that's okay. But you're going to cut lengthwise down the fruit and kind of pop out the whole membrane and seed all at once. And I'm not saying it's super fast, but if you can get it all at once, that makes the process go a lot more quickly. So here's your fruit. It's ready to go in the freezer. And after a few days, I figured out what I want to make with it. I think I'm going to do a composite of 3 recipes. One is my mom's loquat butter. Another one is Brendan Gibbons' loquat preserves. And the third one is a loquat chutney that Greg did a few years ago. I've never done any of those myself, so all of this is very inexact and experimental. I kind of just am using what I have on hand, starting with a bag of half a bag of fresh cranberries that's been in my freezer for like the past 2 years. And I kind of woke up and thought, that might be kind of tasty with some loquats. Then the preserves recipe calls for 2 cups of sugar. I'm only using 1.5 cups because that is what I have on hand. But since we're using chia as a thickener at the end, it doesn't matter if there's not as much sugar as the recipe calls for. Now we add our spices. It does call for ground spices, but I only have these whole ones, so I'm just going to use those and throw them in. It calls for 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I'm going to use a whole lemon. It's probably like double what it calls for, but I think it would be good tart. Here I am adding cardamom seeds, whole cloves, and some cinnamon sticks. So that's what it looks like when you mix it up. You put it in the pot, put the heat on medium, and I just put everything together frozen, so it's thawing at this point. This is what it looks like when it's thawed out and ready to start actually cooking. So now it's cooking, and you want to bring it to a boil. And once it's boiling, what you're going to do is put the lid on it, you're going to turn the heat down to like 3 or 4 and just let it simmer. So you still want it boiling a little bit, but simmer it for 30 minutes. This is what it looks like at the end of 30 minutes. All of the juice has cooked down, and it's actually cooled off at this point because I was doing other stuff. But what I'm doing now is picking out all of the cloves and the cardamom pods and the cinnamon sticks that are in there, because I'm about to use an immersion blender to make it smooth. You can also use a regular blender, just do it a little bit at a time. But I love immersion blenders because they do this. So you get it smooth, and this is what it looks like. So it's thick, but it's not exactly gelatinous like a preserves or a jelly. So what we're going to do now is actually use chia seeds to thicken it, and that's kind of a secret ingredient from the chutney that Greg used one time. We're going to put in about 1/4 of a cup. I just kind of eyeballed it, mix it up, and then heat it up again. So I probably cooked it for about 5 to 10 minutes. I set my burner for like medium heat, about 4 or 5. You don't want it to boil, you just want it to, the seeds to start getting gelatinous. The other cool thing about the chia is that it gives it a neat texture, kind of like strawberry seeds. So now we're going to get ready to jar our preserves. One thing about chia is that you can't do the traditional jarring method where you do a water bath to seal the jars so that you can keep them, they're shelf stable for a really long time. But the upside to that is that you don't have to sterilize your jars. All you got to do is just wash them out with hot soapy water. So here they are, they're ready to go. And then you just start filling them with your preserves. And this is actually the next day. What I did was, after I cooked my chia in for those 10 minutes, I just cooled it off, and then I put that whole pot in the fridge. And not really for any reason other than that I ran out of time and I wanted to go to bed. So the next morning, you get your preserves. They're nice and thick. That chia has begun to get jelly-like and to set up. And then you just scoop it in your jar. And this is going to be a refrigerator jam, so it's not going to be shelf stable. Don't leave it out. You want to put it in the fridge and eat it within a month. It'll stay good for a month in your fridge. There you go. Oh, I should mention that the particular flavor experiment that I did here with the cranberries and the cloves and the lemon especially makes it taste kind of Christmassy. So you might not like that. You could use other spices if you like, but it's tasty. I liked it. Try it.